What's up, guys? Let's take a minute to talk about carbohydrates, carb confusion, and where people are going wrong and maybe limiting their progress and their training. Let's talk good carbs, bad carbs, and from a holistic athlete's perspective. It's your trainer, nutritionist, Jason Sani here, and I want to talk about how you are probably misusing carbohydrates. So, in one of our recent videos, we talked about insulin sensitivity and how some people are going to be more sensitive to insulin, which is a hormone that is going to be released when we eat carbohydrates that drives blood sugar into our cells. If people have a history with diabetes or being overweight, maybe they're insulin resistant or they don't handle carbohydrates so well. Well, this is all related into the type of training that we're doing. We're going to talk about why timing can matter. We're going to talk about the best carbohydrates to use for you as an individual and why not to be afraid of them. Also, let's touch on what it means to earn your carbohydrates. So just like a lot of you, I used to have a lot of carb confusion, and I used to think in order to get lean, I had to avoid all carbohydrates. And I wondered why I was hitting plateaus and my muscles looked flat. And it was until I really gave a macronutrient diet perspective approach to the way that I was eating and trusted the process to slowly build up my carbohydrates. And in return, I felt so much better. My strength gains went up. My muscles felt so much better. My digestion felt a whole lot better. My testosterone went up because my cortisol and stress wasn't elevated so much. So number one, we need to make sure we're eating enough food to get the right amount of raw materials for our training. And a lot of people are actually not eating enough. They're just going by feel and trying to intuitive eat. So first of all, we need to understand that carbohydrates and protein both are 4 calories per gram, and we need to get our calories one way or another. If you are a male and you're above, we'll say 170 pounds, if you're active, you need to be eating above 2,000 calories, and for some people, 3,000 to 3,500 calories. And if you're a female and you're active, you're gonna need to be to around 1,500 calories or above. And now think about this, we're gonna get our calories either from protein, fat, or carbohydrates. If 100 grams of protein is 400 calories, 100 grams of carbohydrate is also 400 calories. Now 100 grams of fat is 900 calories, because of the 9 calories per gram. So what this means is that we can't be afraid to diversify the type of nutrients that we're eating. And there's good carbohydrates and bad carbohydrates. Now, liquid carbohydrates that are sugary and these simple carbs are going to hit our bloodstream right away because our blood sugar is going to be elevated. Now, around training, or if we're really lean, we may earn these types of carbohydrates that we need to replenish our muscles. And that's where the earn your carbohydrates falls into. If you are lean, let's say that you can see visible abs, you most likely will be able to handle carbohydrates better than somebody that is slightly overweight or has less muscle definition. So things that influence this are your lifestyle factors, somewhat of your genetics, and how you train and how much you move. So keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to the types of carbohydrates, remember they're not all created equal. If you simply eat a lot of oats or potatoes or even berries, it's very unlikely that your body is going to store a lot of extra body fat because those foods are going to be hard to eat a lot of. What causes a bad reaction is when people eat those, like we talked about insulin sensitivity, with a lot of sugars or syrups or honeys or oils or fats. So when it comes to replenishing our carbohydrates, it's best to put them around exercise when we're going to handle them best, or later in the day after we have other food to slow down how our blood sugar is going to respond. Now, when we are training, our muscles use glycogen as fuel, especially when you're pushing yourself with a heavy weight or going at a high intensity type of interval. And if you do this without carbohydrates, your body's going to be under stress and it's going to have to break down muscle to get that glycogen. It can do it from fat, but at a very slow rate. if we do not replenish and we do two heavy activity things, for example, in one day, our bodies are going to have elevated cortisol, which is stress, through the whole process of trying to break down these types of energy. That is going to downregulate these other hormones in our body, including testosterone. So therefore, there's a lot of study that supports having carbohydrates around activity, especially post-workout, can help bring down cortisol and help in the recovery process of rest and digest. So that's how it's related to hormones. Understand that a lot of people tend to be scared of carbohydrates. If you want to think of the earn your carbohydrates perspective, you've probably heard of things like carb cycling. And that's essentially eating carbohydrates on days that you're training, the majority of them around your actual workout in the day, or saving them till after your workout. And then on days where you're not training or you're just doing cardio or an active recovery day, eat majority vegetables and protein. And remember, vegetables are a carbohydrate as well, and that's an example of the type of carbohydrates that we want to be eating the most of. Now there's going to be more dense carbohydrates in things like potatoes, berries, different root vegetables. But we have to find what works best for us as an individual and does not cause a lot of bloating or digestive discomfort. There's also carbohydrates that are going to pack extra nutrients, more functional carbohydrates. So from an athlete's perspective, if you can get your carbohydrates from things like dates, they are going to be higher in sugar, but they also have amino acids and minerals that can help your brain's neurotransmitters and help with recovery. Berries are going to have different antioxidants. Things like bananas can have potassium and some help, but they also are higher sugar, are going to hit your bloodstream faster. Things like oats or gluten-free oats are great for you if you tolerate grains. And you have things like sweet potatoes, which you can do sweet potato rice, you can do sweet potato toast, so many different ways, but those are ideal carbohydrates that you can add to your meals. Now something like white rice can be great, it's easy on digestion, but it can spike your blood sugar, so keep that for post-workout or if you've essentially earned it because you are lean enough. But for many people, slowly adding in more carbohydrates on their training days, and there's a lot of resources to find out your macronutrients, is going to help you get more out of your training, improve your hormones, and help spike and reset a lot of the hunger hormones like leptin and ghrelin, so your body will have a better relationship with insulin, testosterone, and all that good stuff. I know this is a very loaded topic, so happy to answer any sort of questions you have when it comes to carb confusion. Remember, there's a holistic and healthy way to go about all of this, but let's not be afraid of carbohydrates. It's an essential nutrient that our bodies can use, and how we train influences that more. If you're not training, you probably don't need to add a lot of sugary or dense carbohydrates, and you can stick to primarily vegetables. Let us know if you have any sort of questions. Hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.